Another complication of CSS is that you can create styles that are internal, external, or inline styles. And what do we mean by all that? Well, an external style sheet means that the styles are saved in a separate document. Most of the pages in this site are styled with a style sheet called styles.css, and that style sheet is linked to the HTML pages, and that same style sheet is linked to multiple pages. So my Gallery 3 page is got the same styles visible as my Gallery 2 page. And if you look at the top of my Gallery 3 page, you'll see that there is a link to a separate file called CSS styles.css. This is the link to a page that's in a folder called CSS. I'll show you that in the Files panel in a second. In Gallery 2, if we split view, you'll see again at the top. Now, don't be confused by the fact that in Dreamweaver CS4, you have this handy ability to view styles and source code without opening a separate file. So if you double-click on the name of the styles, if you double-click on the name of the style sheet in the CSS Styles panel in CS4, it will open within the same page area, but it's really a separate document. If I switch to source code and I scroll up to the top of the page, you'll see this one is also linked just as it was with the Gallery 3 page. So what do I mean by separate file? Yes, you can open it as a separate document. And if you're in an earlier version of the program, or you just want to see how this works, notice that in my Scuba site, remember you can download the zip folder so you can follow along with all these files, there is a folder called CSS, and if you scroll down a little, there is a file called styles.css. I can double click on that just as I would open any other file on my website, and Dreamweaver will open it as a separate document. So what do you see here? Well, this is a style sheet. It's got many different rules defined. And when I say rules defined, I mean this is the selector. We'll talk more about class, tag, and ID selectors. This is the rule that's been defined. It has things like properties and values. So the property is font weight and the value is bold. And that's all just vocabulary for you to learn along the way. But the big picture is all of this is a style. It's got a selector, it's got a property, it's got a value, it's got another property, it's got another value. And if you're writing this by hand, all these little curly things, all these colons and semicolons, those have to be used exactly as you see them here. That's one of the reasons I love letting Dreamweaver do this for me. But that's what styles look like in an external style sheet. And when you link them to the top of the page, it's just one little line of code that says, browser, go find that external document and use it to do all of the formatting on this page. Okay, pretty good so far. External style sheets, we're starting to get the concept. We can link that same style sheet to as many pages in the site as we want. Now, what about inline styles? What do I mean by that? Well, I've created one on this page just to give you the example, but I'll tell you, I almost never use inline styles. So first of all, what are they? Well, an inline style is a style that's created in line with the HTML tag. So what you see here is an HTML tag called the span tag. Now you may not have used the span tag much before CSS, but it's very handy with CSS because the span tag really doesn't do much of anything, but it provides a container that you can attach a style to. And remember, you can only attach styles to elements on the page, and that basically means you have to find some tag somewhere that you can attach a style to. Now in this case, I've created an inline style. So the same thing you just saw in that external style sheet. Style equals color, that's my property. Yellow, that's my value. Font weight equals bold, that's my property, that's my value. Notice the same semicolons and colons. We don't need those curly things here because we're looking at an inline style. So this style only applies to this place and can't be used anywhere else unless you actually repeat this code. So why would you use one of these? Well, it really does kind of defeat the efficiency of styles to go back to putting all the formatting right in line with the tag. We used to do that with attributes in HTML, really takes away the value of CSS, unless it's really an exception. But if I scroll down this page, you'll pretty quickly see that it's not such an exception. I wanted to use that exact same style again when I got to my friend Ken Riddick's name down here. So what I repeated the inline style, and as soon as I did that, I knew it shouldn't be an inline style. So how do you get rid of it? How do you change it? Well, you can highlight it in the code like this and just delete it. Now I just have a span tag around this. I could remove the span tag because the span tag has absolutely no intrinsic formatting. It's just a container you can attach styles to. But I'm going to leave it there because I'm going to come back and attach a style here, a class style that I can use throughout the site. And that way, if I ever decide that I want Ken Riddick's name to be a color other than yellow, I'll be able to change them all at once. So if you don't know much about code and you're starting to feel a little intimidated by this, let me show you another quick trick. If you do like code, you'll like this too. Again, selecting this element that I know is formatted with an inline style. And down here I can see the span tag, so I know that's what I've selected. If I right-click on this, on a Mac, of course, you can control-click. Notice that there is a quick tag editor. And when I bring that up, it shows me just that first part of the span tag, and it's just a little easier to separate out what I want to delete around this. So again, I'm going to leave the span tag even though there's no formatting because I'm going to use it to apply another style. So inline styles really only used for exceptional formatting you're only going to use once in the site. But what if I were only going to use this yellow color in this page? Well, that would be a great place for an internal style. So internal style sheets are really just like external style sheets, except instead of being saved in a separate file, they're saved in that head region of the page. So if I come back up here, we've linked our external style sheet. If I create an internal style, it will show up in this part of the page, and I'll show you that by creating a style. But think about this. You can have external style sheets and internal style sheets in the same page. So watch. I'm going to create a new style. I'm just going to go down here to the new CSS rule icon. I'm going to make this a class style so I can use it over and over on the page. And I'm going to start it with a dot, a period. Now I could call this something like yellow because I know I'm going to make it yellow. Or I could say, wait a minute, this is really for Ken Riddick. And since I can use any color I want or any name I want for this color, and I might change the color someday, let me call it Ken. So just to prove the point, you really can name styles anything you want. Class and ID styles can have any name. But where does the internal part come in? Well, right here you can see that Dreamweaver's assuming that I'm going to want to add this style to the external style sheet. And that actually would be very handy. But in this case, I want it in this document only. And that will create an internal style. And you'll see it show up in that head region of the page. So by selecting this document only, when I define the rule for this style, it will only be available to this page. So all I want to do is make this yellow. And I believe I also made it bold. So I've got two properties here with two values. Click OK. Now, of course, it's not going to show up until I apply it, but because I left that span tag, I can click span, go to the class option, choose Ken. I know it's dropping off the screen there, but now you see Ken Riddick. And if I scroll down to the bottom, I can use that same style to style his name down here at the bottom of the page. Again, choosing it from the drop-down menu of the class options. And that style was added there when I created the style. You'll learn a lot more about class styles in another lesson. But the lesson here is that if you use an item more than once, it should either be an internal style or a style saved to an external style sheet. Inline styles only for extreme uses. So now I have this style. I've used it twice on this page. Where is it? Oh yeah, we kept split view open for a reason. Let's scroll up here and see what happened. Now we have, here it is, our style that we just created. It's called Ken, that's the selector, and there you go. There's my property, there's my value. And notice that there's a tag around it, style type text/CSS, and a close style tag at the end, and all of this is contained before the close head. That's the top of the page, and that's stuff that does not appear on the page. If you know HTML, you know that only the content within the open and close body tags actually display in the browser window. So this is a very safe place to store this just for the internal use on the page. So I have an external style sheet here. I have an internal style and an internal style sheet here. What's that look like in Dreamweaver? Well, if we come over here to the CSS styles panel, you'll see my external style sheet indicated by the .css. Again, I can open and close these. And if you have internal styles, they will be indicated by the brackets around the word style. And again, I can open and close. There's only one style rule here. That one's .ken. Now, what if later I decided, actually, I should have made this part of the external style sheet because I just realized I'm going to want it in my Gallery 3 page too. His name shows up there. Well, here's how cool this is. Let me go ahead and save this page so that I know it's recorded. I don't even need to look at it here anymore. I can click and drag it from here into my external style sheet. And just that simply, I can move styles from an internal style sheet to an external style sheet. And when I do that, watch this. When I go to Gallery 3, it's now visible. No internal style sheet here. I didn't create an internal style sheet, but I added a style to an external style sheet, and that means it's now available. And even though I don't have a span tag here, when I choose that Ken style, Dreamweaver will automatically apply a span tag because it needs something to tie that style to, something to apply that style to. So now that I've put it in an external style sheet, what's the advantage? Well, if I ever decide that, maybe Ken should be blue or red instead of yellow, well, I can choose any color I want, click OK, apply. You see instantly he's blue there, click OK. And when I come back to the second option, to my second page, where that same style is visible and in an external style sheet, you see that it's changed in every instance. So, inline styles, very rarely used, only if you're using something once. Internal styles, really best reserved for things that you're going to use only on a single page. And if you ever change your mind, you can easily move things from an internal style sheet to an external style sheet simply by clicking and dragging them from one to the other. External style sheets really being the biggest bang for your buck because you can attach the same style sheet to multiple pages in your site and you can make global changes like I just did here.